Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am so excited to have a conversation with actor, writer, and producer Dan Bucatinsky. You've seen Dan in Scandal, The Baker and the Beauty, the movie Our Little Secret, and much more. Dan also guest starred in Will and Grace, Friends, Frasier, and A Million Little Things. Most recently, Dan is a writer for the show Mid-Century Modern, which I am obsessed with. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited to be talking with you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. My first question for you is who do you most admire and how has that affected the way you live your life?
Wow, that is a really good question. Um, who do I most admire? It's interesting because I admire different people in different walks of life, different areas of life, and for different reasons. In politics right now, I'm really admiring Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
He's an amazing role model as a gay dad and as an advocate of human rights and civil rights. Um, in terms of professionally, I have to say, as someone who's also a buddy of mine, but I've always admired since I started was Ben Stiller, who is an actor and a writer and a director and a dad and a great guy and really funny. And he was someone who very early on in his career was able to wear multiple hats in his work. He was able to write and direct and act and juggle it all at a time when people really like to put people in a box. Um, so that's professionally, he's somebody. Look, Woody Allen, before things got really dicey in his personal life, was another person who was making really funny movies about New York, and I'm from New York, and about relationships. And he was a writer and an actor and a director. I really gravitate towards people who manage to juggle multiple things at the same time. Um, I find it really inspiring to watch somebody who can change lanes easily. Those have been the people who I've admired a lot. Obviously, there are people, who are helping to change the course of history in bigger ways. The politicians and the human rights leaders that I also admire. But in terms of on a smaller scale, I think those two have guided me a lot in terms of their work, inspirationally.
Oh, I love that. Um, so what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Mm. What small things? Well, every morning, if I if I'm not chatting with great journalists such as Maya. No, I am every morning I enjoy my cup of coffee in a very, very specific chair in my kitchen, and all three of my dogs hop up on my lap. And we just sit there, and I could scroll the news and Instagram and play my puzzles and do my Wordle and my spelling bee, and I could sit there for an hour with the dog sitting on my lap. It's a very peaceful way to start the day. So that's one thing that brings me joy. Dinner with friends is another thing that brings me joy. I love having people over and going to their house and playing cards, and travel. I love going places. I've just come back from Bulgaria where I was shooting a movie for a month. And it was really fun to explore a whole new city. And I'm off to Rome in a few weeks because my husband writes on Emily in Paris, and we're going to go. My daughter and I are going to go visit him in Rome. So I'm very excited about going to visit Rome because I haven't been there since I was in Under the Tuscan Sun, a movie with Diane Lane, which was 20 more than 20 years ago. So I'm That brings me joy.
Oh, that. Yeah. Yeah, so what has been the biggest obstacle you've overcome?
Oh boy. You ask the questions that really pack a punch, don't you?
Yeah.
The biggest obstacle I've had to overcome. Well, I think at the time that I came out of the closet as a gay man, it was a very long time ago. It was around 1980 eight, 89, and that was not this, it was a very different time in our history, and it was not easy. It wasn't as easy or commonplace as it is now. I think for certain young men and women, and trans kids, non-binary, today in different cities of our country, it is just as challenging. But for me, growing up in New York City, uh, it was a personal challenge for me and a hard one to overcome. And so that was the first big hurdle, and it was in my 20s. And then I think forging forward in our business, in show business, and being an actor and a writer with any kind of authenticity, while I was still hanging on to this idea that like nobody could really know who I really am, I hung on for another, I'd say probably another 5, maybe 10 years, trying to keep my personal life separate from my work. And it was a really difficult. It was difficult to get work. It was difficult to push through. And I feel like things only got better when I was much more open about who I was. I was in a relationship. I have been for 30 years, and I it was time. It was time. I'd already made a movie that I was about a gay romance, but I was still trying to be somewhat cagey about who I was. It just wasn't it it didn't open me up until I started adopting my kids, and I wrote a book about my adoption process, and I lay everything out. I laid everything about who I was on paper and publicly, and then I think my acting got better, and my opportunities opened up, and I don't think that was a coincidence. So I think my own identity was the biggest obstacle for me to get over in terms of myself, and then professionally, this is a really tough business, and handling the ups and the downs, as extreme as they are, is still remains probably the biggest challenge.
Oh, wow.
And parenthood, by the way, I mean parenthood, raising teenagers, I take it back. That's the biggest challenge of my life. I buried the lead. I mean, my personal challenge was my identity. I think the other biggest challenge was sort of getting my teenagers ready to launch onto the planet as adults is where I'm at now, and I think that's challenging, especially in the world that we're living in right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Um, so what lessons from your childhood have most impacted your worldview?
Um, Gosh, let me think about that. Let's see. A lesson from childhood. I learned some interesting. I learned how to make some very, very helpful knots when I was in the Cub Scouts. Let me start with that. Um, but I don't think that have impacted my worldview, but it has been very helpful to this day. Um, Lessons from my childhood. Well, I'll tell you that some of them were lessons that only in hindsight did they really impact me. I mean, I was bullied a lot when I was a kid, and I felt like I felt like those kids were telling me a truth about myself, that they were bullying me because they saw the truth. And what I learned later, what the biggest lesson I learned, because a part of what I would go through was like, well, that can't, you know, on the one hand, it tortured me because I felt like, oh, well, they know something that I don't, and they know the truth. And then on another level, some part of me was like, it can't be. I can't let that be. I can't let that be. And I think learning the fortitude to not let anybody else tell me what is true and what isn't was something I learned as a kid that has guided me to the present. Don't let anybody define you. We can only do that ourselves.
Oh, wow. I love that. Yeah. So if you had a warning label, what would yours be?
Oh my God. Um, let's see. They'd probably there'd probably be a couple of them. Um, Caffeinate before opening. That would be a good one. Caffeinate before opening. Um, in the event of an emergency, um, administer Swedish berries as, as quickly as possible. A personal favorite candy of mine. Um, and let's see, lead with kindness.
I love those.
Those are three honest ones to be true.
Yeah, I love those. Um, So I am pop culture obsessed, and if you can't tell, and I go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
Oh my God. Do I have to pick just one?
No,
I'm currently obsessed with, and I am every season, with Survivor. Do you watch Survivor?
I don't.
You don't. Okay, well, it's no judgment. People either are or they aren't. But when you are, you watch every season. And when you're in the middle of a season, you're in it. Um, I'm currently in the season of Hacks. So I'm watching Hacks because I love those two women and I love this season, not just because I'm in it, because I'd be watching it anyway. And the other show that I'm loving right now, and I just saw one episode, but I'm thinking about it all day, is Your Friends and Neighbors with John Hamm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Hacks, and yeah, Your Friends and Neighbors is my new show obsession.
I usually have a reality show obsession, and I usually have a scripted show obsession happening at the same time. And I teeter between the two of them always. Like, on a given night that I have a good TV night, I'll watch one of my scripted shows and one episode of my unscripted shows, whether it's Traitors or The Housewives or Love is Blind. Those are my go-to unscripted shows. And on the scripted side, I love The Morning Show. I love Your Friends and Neighbors. I love Hacks. I love White Lotus. There's a bunch.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm currently I mean there's several shows I'm watching too. I am watching the show Dope Thief,
Oh, yeah.
which
Oh, okay.
yeah is really good and also really intense, so I have to like watch it very slowly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't like watch multiple episodes at once.
Wait, is that from this year?
Yes, that it's with Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, okay. I'm confusing it with Dope Sick, right? That was with
Oh yeah.
It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, Dope
Yeah.
Thief. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah.
write it down.
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I mean I obsessed with mid-century modern.
Well, me too.
Yeah, I watched it all in like 2 days when it first came out, and now
Thank
I'm
you.
rewatching it. So yeah.
Yeah, there's, what I loved getting to get on to be involved and write on the writing staff of that show. It was also one of the first times Since we made Web Therapy, which is a show you're probably too young to remember, but I made a show called Web Therapy with my old partner Lisa Kudrow and my husband Don. I had never been in a writer's room with him before, and on Mid-Century Modern, Don and I were both in the writer's room with eight, nine other writers coming up with every episode, and it was a very satisfying experience for us. And the show, to me was both a throwback to the old sitcoms that we love, while also being really edgy, modern,
Yeah.
salty, spicy, heartfelt. I'm really proud of being part of Mid-Century Modern. I think the show straddles the past and the present in a perfect way.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, I'm writing down web therapy to go watch. So,
Well, it's hard to find. It's hard to find. We started that show on the web, and then we were making episodes for Showtime, but they don't have the rights to it. You're going to find episodes on YouTube.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you have a day off, what would your perfect day look like?
Um, Boy, you ask really good questions. I would
Thank you.
probably include a hike or a walk with a friend or with my dogs. On the days that I'm too busy, I can't take them. And so I would take the dogs on a walk or a hike, either with a friend or on my own. And sometimes I take the dogs on a hike with the creator of Mid-Century Moderns. And that's one of Max Muchnick, who's created Will and Grace. And I
Yeah.
really enjoy doing that on my days off. Um, I love a day like a spa day where I could go get a foot massage and a mani-pedi. I'm not above self-care in that way. Um, but I also sometimes just enjoy having nothing on my schedule so that I could sit with the dogs as long as I want, make my own day, make my own schedule, and then end it with, like I said earlier, like a dinner with friends and play cards and just have it, unscheduled time. But I'm a bit of a foodie, so I do love the idea of on a day off going to lunch at a place I've never tried before that I love. Um, Believe it or not, I think it's called All Time. There's a restaurant in Los Angeles that I had never tried before, and I was having lunch with one of my co-stars of Hacks this season, Hannah Einbinder, and she had me, and I was on my day off. It was on a day that I had nothing else scheduled, so I drove to her neck of the woods, which was like 40 minutes away from here, and she took me to this restaurant called All Time, and like the menu, and I'm gluten free, like I have celiac disease, so I can't have gluten, and the menu was all gluten free and the most delicious food. I was like in heaven. Finding a new restaurant in town with someone I love, like it was the perfect day off.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, yeah, I love that. And since you mentioned Will and Grace, that is another one of my all-time favorite shows. I've seen every episode, like I don't even know how many times.
Uh,
I've
that
lost track.
isn't that comfort food? Like I was on an
Yeah,
airplane. I've seen all of them a million times too, and it's not always easy to find, which I find annoying. It's like it should be on every day, but it isn't because it's like a
yeah,
tonic. And I watch them on airplanes. If you find a series on an airplane, for whatever reason, rather than get into a show I've never watched before on an airplane when
yeah,
you have 9 hours on a flight where you could totally binge a show you've never seen before,
yeah,
I'll always go to the shows I've seen 1,000 times.
yeah,
Friends, Will and Grace, Modern Family. You go to the ones that feel like comfort.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Do you have a
It's
favorite episode of Will and Grace?
Oh, I have several that come to mind right away. There's the one with Kevin Bacon, I love. Um I love the one My Uncle the Car, uh
Can't remember
where
that one.
that one Ellen DeGeneres guest starred in.
Okay.
And she played a nun.
Oh yeah.
That yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I know. It's so funny.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I love the one where Grace has a hydro bra. Um,
Yeah.
so those are just a few of my favorites.
Did you like the reboot? When they came back?
Yeah, I for some reason didn't watch all of it, so I recently went back and watched what I hadn't seen,
See,
and
yeah.
I have some, yeah, favorite episodes of,
Yeah.
yeah, that
I
one.
love how Sean Hayes is a buddy of mine. Is so
Yeah,
I admire. Talk about another person I really admire is Sean.
yeah,
He has got this unbelievable light inside of him, and he's a positive spirit, and he's entrepreneurial, and he's got the podcast, and he's always just moving forward with challenges, and he's another great one. But
yeah,
his physical comedy is unbelievable. The episode where he put some kind of numbing cream
yeah,
I just laughed my ass off. I love physical comedy.
yeah.
So I Love Lucy have you ever watched all the I Love Lucy's from the old days?
I haven't.
Well, I'll tell you something. A real treat for yourself is to go back to the 1950s and watch the master of all physical comedy, which is Lucy, um, because you'll notice that she is adept at the things that you love from the contemporary shows that you love. You know, the my one of my favorite Friends episodes is when Ross is trying to get those leather pants off.
Yeah.
Again, it's like these actors who take on these physical challenges in a hilarious way. It's my favorite.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, another person that I think is so good at physical comedy that I can't stop laughing is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. The
Oh
New
yeah.
Adventures of Old Christine is another one of my comfort shows.
Mine too. Mine too. I used to watch it every single week. I loved it.
Yeah, I started watching it during in 2020 during lockdown, and so it's like one of my comfort shows, and I have so many things that I mean I constantly quote like Will and Grace and Friends and The New Adventures of Old Christine. Like I now there's one thing like from one episode of The New Adventures of Old Christine that I just like quote constantly. So
I love that. I love it. I'm hoping that the creator of the New Adventures of Old Christine. I mean, this is so. I wonder if I'm allowed to say this, but it's not definite, so I probably am allowed to say it. I'm hoping that we can get, if we get a second season of Mid-Century Modern, it would be really fun. It would be really fun if we could entice the woman who created the New Adventures of Old Christine to write in the writer's room of Mid-Century Modern. Don't you think? Would that would be fun?
yeah, that would be yeah, that would be so fun.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for season two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Julia is a dear friend, and one of the ones I play cards with. She taught me and my husband. She and her husband have been friends of ours for 25 years. And when we had our babies, when we first adopted our kids, we would bring them. We would all spend Christmas together, and we would bring our kids to their house, and we would play charades. And I have real positive memories of playing games with Julia. She's a
Yeah.
treasure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, she is. Yeah. So what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
Well, definitely a comedy. I think a comedy. I don't know whether it would be a romantic comedy or, a buddy comedy, an ensemble comedy, but I definitely think a comedy. Um, yeah, I think I'd have to leave it at that genre because I don't think it's a thriller and I don't think it's a crime, not yet. I don't think it's a crime drama. And it's not a period saga. So I think it would definitely be comedy.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I yeah, I've always wanted my life story to be both a rom-com and a musical.
Oh,
Um,
well, a rom-com musical is, who doesn't love one of those?
yeah.
Um, there's a great romantic musical on Broadway right now called Maybe Happy Endings.
Oh,
Maybe Happy Ending with Darren Criss. Have you heard about it?
yeah. I have, yeah.
God, so good. But
Yeah.
it's not as funny as it is just like heartfelt, you know?
Oh, yeah. I love
It's
that.
great. It's great.
Yeah. 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 There's so many shows on Broadway that I always want to see. I really want to see the new Jonathan Groff musical.
Yeah.
Because I love him.
Yes. Who doesn't love him? Are you
Yeah.
kidding?
Yeah.
He's he's my he's the all-time crush.
Yeah.
The all-time crush.
Yeah. I know. I always joke. I just like I want to be like his best friend. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Get in line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sweet guy. Really sweet guy.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, yeah, so what three words best describe you?
Oh my God. You ask tough questions. You know, I don't. It's a good question because I think that I'm not sure I would describe myself in the same three words that other people would describe me. So, are you interested in the what I think others would or what I would describe myself?
I mean, whichever one you
Okay.
think
Um,
of.
I think people would call me high strung, energetic, and funny.
I like those.
High strung is good because I tend to be a little controlling and I tend to get anxious easily. So let's call high strung as all that whole department, that whole section of the department store. I mean, this is a good question. Don't ask me this question, but this is a good question for your next victim is if you were a department store, what would the floors of the building be labeled?
I
You
like that.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
housewares, fine, you know, lingerie. Um, so then you could ask somebody what the floors of their department building would be like funny, high strung. You'd stop on the third floor, which would be anxiety. Maybe on the fifth floor would be people don't, I always think that I'm more chill than I am. No one ever would describe me as chill. So I'm definitely the opposite of chill, whatever that word is. So I think that's probably high strung.
I like those. And yeah, I like that. I like that question. So thank you for
Mhm.
um, so do you have any irrational fears?
Uh, all of them. All of them. I mean, I worry a lot about things that probably, first of all, things I have no control over. So my biggest obstacle as a human is to accept my powerlessness over that which we have no control. So I sometimes get afraid of flying on an airplane because, and it's irrational. It's not irrational in that there's not any danger involved, but there's more danger taking my dogs down the street with the kind of drivers that there are in Los Angeles. So losing control is my biggest irrational fear. And so afraid of bad things happening, I oftentimes will imagine scenarios that are so ridiculous, like this person's going to come, not this, I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, but my mind will go and someone's going to come to the house who I don't know because I've never met them. And they're going to come to the house to, let's say, measure for carpeting, or they're gonna come to my house because they're a physical therapist and I've never met them before. And I'm like, what if they come to my house and I let them in and they kill me? Like, what if they carry a bag with them to measure the carpets, but inside are guns and they kill me? Like, that's not going to happen. But I indulge these crazy negative fantasies. And I think I've learned over the years to tell myself, and I tell other people the same thing, that the power of your brain to create anxiety out of a negative fantasy, your brain has the exact same power, probably even more so, to create serenity out of a positive fantasy. So what if? So I learned recently. So anyway, that yes, I have a lot of irrational fears. None of them are bugs or anything like that, but they're usually out of bad things happening, scenarios that what if right now there's a bolt on this airplane that's coming loose, and it's like, okay. I mean, what if there is, and there probably isn't, and they check for that kind of thing, but like I could really get myself going by imagining what that loose bolt is doing. And I'll tell you, the person with the loose bolt is me. Um, but this inspirational speaker and author and podcaster named Mel Robbins, who you'll find on Instagram, she is very famous now.
I
She,
actually interviewed Mel.
you did?
Yeah.
That's my dream. My dream is to chat with her, meet her. I mean, that's my dream. Um, well, you're very lucky because I think she's incredibly wise.
Yeah.
And she posted something one day that has been incredibly useful to me because I'm the kind of person who will create anxiety in myself because most anxiety comes from the first two words, what if, right?
Yeah.
What if I don't get another job? What if I never work again? What if I'm sick right now and I don't even know it yet? What if I have some illness that has no symptoms, but that when it comes and gets you, like what if all these horrible things, right?
Yeah.
And she said and she says these five, you can sometimes do this with your fingers, which reminds you of these five powerful words. And this, sometimes I just do this to myself to remind myself of the five powerful words. What if everything works out? And I'll tell you something. I don't have any tattoos, but if I were to ever tattoo something on my hand, it would be what if everything works out? Because I'll tell you something. It instantly re reroutes your brain from going down the path of the negative anxiety filling what ifs to what if everything works out? Like, what if how about that possibility? Because more times than not, the person coming to measure your house for carpeting is coming to your house to measure for carpeting. More times than not, they're not coming to your house to cut your throat.
Yeah.
So, what if everything works out is a daily mantra that has really helped me.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, I have yeah, a lot of anxiety, so and irrational fears. So
Well, what if everything works out can be a daily, and sometimes just go like this to yourself because it will remind you of the five words and count them out and say them out loud a few times. It's amazing how it actually has a calming effect. What if everything works out? It's like, oh, right. What if, like, indulge the positive fantasy? We think that if we take our brains down the path of the worst case scenario, that we'll be somehow prepared for it. And the truth is, we're never really prepared for what might come that might not be ideal. And sometimes the things that happen that are not ideal will only strengthen us, and
yeah,
we should welcome those. I mean, not that we want them to happen, but in hindsight, I've grown an enormous resilience and strength from things that have happened that I didn't think I could get through, and I did.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so what is your most memorable moment from being on set?
Being on set of any movie or show.
Yes.
Wow, you're really making me work. Um, well, I have to say, I mean, it sounds so obvious, but I think it was working with Meryl Streep, and it happened twice. I was lucky enough twice. She was on web therapy with us, and that was a really intimate. It was just Lisa and me and Dawn and the crew in a hotel room in New York, and it was magical. And then I was lucky enough to be in this movie that Steven Spielberg directed called The Post. And my scene, my big scene, I was in a couple of scenes, but I only spoke in one scene, was this dinner table scene. And I was seated next to Meryl, who I knew because she went to Vassar College and I went to Vassar College at different times, but she had been on web therapy. Like we knew each other. But sitting next to Meryl Streep on the set of that movie, I will never forget as long as I live. She just was an incredibly welcoming, calming presence with everybody at that table, and I I thought it was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So that was a good one. That was a
Yeah.
good one. And I really, I think getting to work with Gene Smart on Hacks this season has been just as inspiring in many, many ways. Like, I have to say that I'm a big fan of the strong, talented women in our business. I was partners with Lisa Kudrow for 17 years, and making television with her has been, a highlight for me. Um, so I'm a big fan of the talented women in our business.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's so many, yeah, incredible just women in like that industry and just in my personal life that just
Yeah.
yeah.
So many to look up to, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so what show or movie do you find yourself quoting more often than you would like?
Probably Postcards from the Edge, Meryl Streep movie that she did that was written by Carrie Fisher. So funny. And I watch it more often than I watch other movies. I'm not a big rewatcher. Like I know people who will watch the same thing 100 times. My
I'm
kids,
one of those
yeah.
people.
No, listen, most people I know, when they love something, they'll watch it a million times. I just don't ever go back and do the same thing again. I don't know why. But anyway, that's one that I do watch a lot. And I find myself oftentimes quoting, a funny line. Um, there's a really funny moment. I can't remember the exact lines, which is surprising because I quote it. But there's a funny line where Shirley MacLaine, playing Meryl Streep's mother in Postcards from the Edge, is sort of offering her two horrible choices. I can't remember what they are. They're like, "Oh, do you want me to spend the rest of my life in this hospital bed, or do you want me to die?" And that's not what it is. But Meryl's response, which is like, "Those are the choices." I wind up saying, "Those are the choices," just the way Meryl did. Oftentimes, when someone approaches me with two of both options being terrible, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, well, I could either do this or I could do this. I'm like, those are the choices. Like,
Yeah.
not good choices. So, there's a lot of lines in that movie that I tend to love, and Broadcast News is another great movie. A lot of quotable lines in Broadcast News. It's the comedies I tend to quote.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, my brain is just filled with show and movie quotes. Just
Oh, good.
yeah, and scenes from things to reference just at any time. So
Oh, good. I love that. I wish I could do that. I need to write these things down because I forget. I'm too old to remember. I'll be like, oh yeah, I love that line, and then I'll forget about it.
yeah. Yeah, I am actually just I remembered with the New Adventures of Old Christine, I went back and rewatched one of my favorite episodes, and there was this one moment in the scene where it was or a show where it was with Eric
Oh
McCormack,
my,
and he was texting Mr. Harris back for Christine, and he
uh-huh.
ends the text saying XXOO LOL USA. And I remember when I first saw that, like that's how I ended every single one of my texts. And so now I'm starting doing that again. So, and
Yes.
nobody really gets that.
Yeah, but you do. It tickles you, and that's all that matters. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I yeah, texted my best friend that. I was like, I'm ending all my texts from like this from this point forward. And he just texted me back saying, "Why do I think this is an inside joke I'm not in on?" So,
Because it is. Because it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have one more question for you.
Okay.
So I love inspiring and motivational quotes, and this week the one that spoke to me is by Robert Two, and it's your time is precious. Don't waste it on anyone who doesn't realize that you are too. Um, is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Um, you know what? There is, but as usual, I have to like go find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, hold on, my friends. Hold on. I'm gonna find it. I do this thing. This is gonna take a minute, and you're gonna be annoyed. First of all, just as an aside, if you follow this guy, Nicholas John underscore, Nicholas John, all one word underscore, he 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 has motivational quotes from different books he's reading. He might even be religious, but that's okay. I don't hold it against him. I'm just kidding. Um, he but he has really good quotes on a regular basis that he pulls. So you'll get a lot of inspiration from him on Instagram. But that said, I started this thing a while ago called Failure Friday because I really think that we need to change our relationship to failure. We all go on Instagram and we see people who are showing their best versions of themselves, and no one's ever talking to us about the setbacks, the times when it's not so easy, and they're necessary. It's really necessary that we share with each other the moments that are not as that, because then we inspire each other to get back up off the floor and try again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started this thing called Failure Friday, and in one of my favorite quotes, which of course is one of my favorites, and it's such a favorite that I can't remember it. Um, but hold on, everybody, because I'm gonna find it right now because I posted it as my first Failure Friday, and today Friday?
Yes.
Yes, it's the perfect time to bring this back up because I'll tell you I think about it a lot. Hold on. The greatest glory in living is not in ever failing, but in rising every time we fail. It's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And so I posted back in, when did I start this? In August, this past August, a thing called Failure Friday. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that the greatest, the idea of failing is not the worst thing. It's the idea of letting failure stop us. And I think that motivates me all the time. I think about like if you could fail at something that you're trying, or be humiliated, or be set back, or be pushed down, or be rejected. And if you allow that to define you, oh, then I must be a reject, or I must be a failure, or you allow that setback to define you, that's the only real failure is when it lets it stop you. But if you rise every time you fail, that's the ultimate win. So that Ralph Waldo Emerson quote is one of my favorites.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. Um, Well, that was my final question for you.
Well, you're very good at this.
Thank you.
You've made me think more than I normally do. And how long have you been doing this?
I I started when I was 14, so 8 years.
Wow. It's great. It's great.
Thank
It's
you.
great. Well, keep it up. Keep it up. I'm
Thank
honored.
you.
I'm honored to have been asked, and I'm glad we worked it out.
Me too. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I've had the best time talking with you. You've made my day.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. You likewise.
Thank you. Yeah, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. And that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest to Admire.